Okay. I'll give you a second to do that. Oops.
Mark, why you take out the book?
Okay, so we have been looking at solving quadratic equations, right? So we've learned how to solve quadratic equations using two different methods. What are those two different methods that we've used? We learned how to solve quadratic equations using two methods. What are the two methods that we learned? Factoring. Right. So you know how to solve it by factoring, and you know how to solve it using the quadratic formula. Okay. So today we're going to look at solving a quadratic equation just by taking the square root. So for instance, if we had x squared equals 36, I bet you could all tell me what x squared equals without doing any work. What does x equal? 6. Why does x equal 6? Right, because 6 times 6, which is 6 squared, equals 36. Is there anything else that we can multiply by itself to equal 36?
1 times 36.
Multiply by itself?
18 times 2.
By itself? Multiply by itself? How about negative 6? Is negative 6 times negative 6 equal 36? Sure. Okay. So let me ask you another question. How do I know that that is a quadratic equation? Because the x is squared, right? The x is squared. So if I were solving it using the quadratic formula, what does it have to equal? 0. So what would I do to make it equal 0? What would I do to make it equal 0? Come on, wake up. Wake up. One more period here. We would subtract 36. Right. Subtract 36. Now it's equal to 0. So what's different about the way this equation looks? A normal quadratic equation looks like this. What's different about that one? What's missing? The x, right? Or the b term, right? This is missing. Okay? Anytime that happens, we can solve it just by taking the square root of both sides. So when we have x squared equals 36, if we take the square root of both sides of this equation, I can solve it. Okay? Just to let you know, you can still use a quadratic formula, but it's a lot more work. So all I do is take the square root of both sides. Now, what's the square root of x squared? Wake up, come on. What's the square root of x squared? X. What's the square root of 36? Plus or minus 6. That's how we write it like that, okay? All right, I want all iPads away. All iPads away. Okay. Okay, let's look at another one. How about x squared minus 81 equals 0? What's the b equal in that equation? What's the b equal? 0. Since the b is equal to 0, we can solve this using the square root method. So all we're going to do is move the 81 over, We're going to add 81 to both sides. Right. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. So x is equal to plus or minus 9. Okay, you have a question, TJ?
I don't see no B.
Your standard form of your equation looks like this, right?
Oh, the 81. Oh, so
Yep, there's my B.
wait,
Okay?
so there's no C.
No, this is C right here.
Yeah, there's no B.
I know there's no B. That's what we've been saying.
Oh, because you said what the B equals.
What does B equal?
There's no B.
So if there's no B, what does it equal?
0.
0, yes. Wow, that was an incredible waste of 3 minutes. Okay, come on, let's move on. Focus. We got a lot. We're doing a lot today, so pay attention. Okay, how about this one? How about, no, I don't want to do that.
You got a quiz on this?
8x squared equals 16.
2.
We're just going to randomly guess numbers?
Nah.
Minus 6.
There you go. Oh, not quite. Okay, so I want to get this x squared all by itself so that I can take the square root of both sides. Divide by 8. X squared equals 16 divided by 8. So x squared equals 2. And then what?
Then you move 2 over.
You done.
You got a minus 2.
Can you divide x by both sides?
Thank you, Gianna. Thank you. Take the square root of both sides. So x equals plus or minus the square root of 2. And that's our answer. That's our answer. You guys should be writing this down, and you should be paying attention, and you should not be talking to each other. Yes, sir.
You have to show it at work. Or can you just show the answer?
You can just show the answer if you can do it.
All right.
Okay. Okay, next one. Let's do negative 10x squared equals negative 300. Okay. RJ, what am I going to do? Not yet. I want to get the x squared by itself first. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 10 so that we can get the x squared by itself. In order to use this method, the x squared must be by itself, okay? In order to use this method, the x squared must be by itself. In order to use a quadratic formula, what does it have to be? Equals 0. In order to factor, what does it have to be? If we want to solve by factoring, what do we have to have? Has to equal 0 because we're using the 0 product rule. There's always some special rule. In order to use the square root method, this x squared has to be by itself. Okay, so we've got x squared equals, and we'll simplify this if possible. Don't simplify it if it's going to be a decimal, but this will not because 300 divided by 10 is 30. Okay. Okay, we're going to take the square root of both sides, so we get x equals plus or minus the square root of 30. That does not simplify, so that's our answer. Okay.
Like, you can't square root it?
Right, can't square root it. Okay, how about this one? Let's do 49x squared equals 100. What are we going to do? Divide both sides by 49. So we get x squared equals 100 divided by 49. Will 100 divided by 49, will that reduce? No. So what do we do now? Square root both sides. X equals plus or minus the square root of 100 over 49. Yes, we can take the square root of that. It'll be plus or minus the square root of 100 is 10, and the square root of 49 is 7. And that's our answer. Okay.
Can I find the? Could I possibly find like the 10 and 7 before I go into the square root? Like, if I do like the math inside my head, and just I find the answer x equals plus or minus 10 over 7. Do I have to do all that work?
Or what work? You mean actually writing this one little tiny line here?
Yes.
You do have to at least do that, because if you go straight from here to here, I need to know. I need to see you do that in between step. Okay? Mainly because you're going to make mistakes when you do that. You guys spend more time trying to figure out ways of taking shortcuts than actually just doing the work.
It's easier to do in my head than not.
It doesn't. It doesn't take that much time. It takes like 3 seconds. And you make a mistake, so it's so not worth it. How about this one? Allie, what do you think? Almost. There's one thing I need to do before I do that. Okay, let's subtract 2 from both sides. Good. We're going to subtract 2 from both sides, so we get 8x squared equals 64. And now we're ready to divide by 8 on both sides. So x squared equals 8. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. So x equals plus or minus the square root of 8. Can I simplify that square root of 8? Yeah. Because 8 is 4 times 2. And do we know the square root of 4? 2. So it's x equals plus or minus 2 root 2. And that's our final answer. This is not a complete answer. Okay?
So we're going back to the old problem.
We're doing square roots, radicals, radicals, radicals.
Why you couldn't leave it as 8?
Because it's not simplified. Okay.
When do you know
If it'll simplify?
no,
When do you know you can break it down, Lisa?
no,
Good. If that's the case, you could break down every one.
No. No, you can't.
No, you can't break down nine.
Look at square root of 30, right? 30 is
But you could have did
5 times 6, and that's 5 times 2 times 3. Nothing's going to come out. Right. So nothing comes out of that, so we don't have to simplify that. I was working on the final exam this weekend, and
How many questions?
I was surprised at how much time we spent on radicals, okay, square roots. So we've spent a lot of time, but it's very important because we needed to be able to simplify the quadratic formula answers. And you can see we need it here, right? We'll go over that another time. We got things we have to do today.
Is it just the third and fourth quarter though?
Yes.
She gonna put stuff on the first day of school.
I was about to say. I wasn't even there.
Okay, let's do 2x squared minus 8 equals 168. Good. Let's add 8 to both sides. So we get 2x squared equals 176. Good. Divide by 2. So we get x squared equals 88. Yes, sir?
When we have problems like this on the test, is you gonna tell us what equation to like use to solve it?
Sometimes I will, sometimes I won't.
Then how we supposed to know? It's like this.
That's why I've been saying it multiple times now. What do you need to have it equal to use a quadratic formula? What does it have to equal to factor it?
No, I understand what you're saying, but if it looks like this, you can also solve it by factoring.
You can.
If you just minus the 168 on both sides.
You can.
So how we gonna know which one it is?
Either way would be okay, as long as you factor it correctly. Okay. Okay, what do we do now? Yeah, we'll take the square root of both sides. X equals plus or minus the square root of 88. Now we're ready to simplify it. 88 is 8 times 11. 8 is 4 times 2. Right, so this is plus or minus the square root of 4 times 2 times 11. Then what happens? Yeah, we can take that square root of 4 out. So we get plus or minus 2 root 2 times 11. So our final answer is plus or minus 2 root 22. And that's our final answer. Okay. Okay, I have a worksheet for you to do. We have more to do today. So you're going to finish the worksheet and upload it to Google Classroom, and then we're going to continue on with something else. Okay?
What is the new material?
Now we're continuing on. You're loading it to the one that says solve by square root. Okay, so you're going to check your answers, and then we'll go over any that you have questions about.
Oh, good, yeah.
Okay, can everybody see that?
I did that. I got it all right.
Oh, yeah, shouldn't.
Okay. Yeah?
I have a Google Classroom one for I don't have my iPad.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, this is where I did it too.
All right, so now we are going to look at something else, okay? What we're going to do is look at writing radicals in exponential form. So, first off, what is a radical? What is a radical? We have to know what a radical is if we're going to write them in exponential form. So, what's a radical? Mm-hmm. When I say radical, what do you think of? Square roots, yeah. Radicals are roots. So this is a radical. Okay. Now, what is the assumed number that's outside this radical? 2. What's this assumed exponent next to the 3? 1. Okay. We write this in exponential form like this. It'll be 3, because that's my base, to the power of 1/2. First thing you need to know is anytime you see an exponent of 1/2, that means square root. Okay, anytime you see an exponent of 1/2, that means square root. But what if I have something like this? Let's do the cube root of 4 to the second power. Okay, we're going to write this in exponential form. So it's going to be 4 to the power of, now look at the example we just did before. Where does this little exponent here go? On the top. And where's the number outside go? On the bottom. And we're done. Okay. You will most likely see this on your SAT, and you will most likely see it on your map test when we do our map testing later on this month.
We got another map test.
We're going to do one more map test. I've been waiting until the end of the year because I expect you all to do phenomenal on it.
There's a final and a math test?
Since I did some one, can I not take it again?
You didn't take it for the fourth quarter yet.
Oh,
Wait,
I'm guessing on one of them.
wait.
thank you.
So we got a final and a map test?
Mm-hmm.
What? Oh yeah.
I thought we
Yes.
had
Yeah,
one
I'm
test.
just- sorry.
Like one per
Zoom
semester.
We have one per quarter, and we have not done the fourth quarter one yet.
You haven't?
No. Nope. Okay, so how about this one? See, because I'm sure that you saw this stuff on your map testing,
No,
okay?
this wasn't.
And I'm sure it's going to show up on your SAT. Everybody has different questions on their map test, by the way, in a different order. Okay, how about the third root of 7 to the sixth power? 7 to the 6 over 3. What's 6 over 3 reduced to? 2, yes. Okay. Okay, how about this one? I'm going to get a little harder. How about the square root of 3 to the third squared? Ooh, it just got hard. Okay. So let's do what's inside the parentheses first. How do we rewrite the square root of 3 to the third in exponent form? Yes, it would. Yes. And then squared. Now, what do we do when we multiply exponents like this? No. I just said it. We multiply the exponents. So what's 3/2 times 2 over 1? 6 over 2, which equals 3. So what does this equal? 3 to the power of 3. Okay. Let's look at this one. Let's do the cube root of 2 to the fourth to the second power. Okay. So we're going to do what's inside the parenthesis first. So that will be 2 to what power? 4 over 3. Good. To the second power. When we have exponents outside the parentheses like that, we multiply. So we're going to do 4/3 times 2 over 1. And what does that equal? 8 over 3. So this is going to be 2 to the power of 8 over 3. Okay, we'll have you do one yourself. We're going to do the cube root of 5 squared to the power of 6. See if you can do that one yourself. Okay, so inside the parenthesis, what do we have? 5 to the 2/3. Good. To the power of 6. So outside the parentheses, we're going to do 2/3 times 6 over 1, which is 12 over 3, which gives me 4. So that will be 5 to the power of 4. Okay. Okay. So anytime I see something to the 1/2 power, what does that mean? Square root. So this is the square root of 9, which is 3. How about 49 to the 1/2? What's that? 7. Okay. Okay. Let's see if we can go from exponent to radical. So let's say 10 to the 2/3. How would I write that as a radical? Where's the 2 go? Here? Here? Yes. 2 goes there and the 3 goes there. Boom, we're done. Okay. One more of those. Let's do 7 to the power of 4/5. How would we write that? Make your radical sign. 7 goes inside. What goes outside? 5, and inside goes 4. Okay? Okay. I have a homework worksheet. You're going to work on it now, and then you'll finish it for homework, okay?
On this stuff?